Honda has just dropped the hammer. The all-new 2026 V3R 900E compressor prototype has just been announced. Before we talk about this bike, I do want it on record that I have been a Honda fan for the better part of my motorcycle riding tenure. I've had people complain about me being a Honda fanboy. Despite that, I've been both praising Honda for making impressive, amazing motorcycles, such as the bikes I own, the CBR600RR, which I call the best 600 ever built, and the RC51 and VFR 800, all amazing bikes that I think very highly of. However, I've also criticized Honda a lot. I said that Honda no longer innovated, that they got complacent, resting on their name brand and not pushing boundaries anymore. Well, today I want to say that for the first time in a long time, Honda is making me eat my words, as they have just announced one of the most innovative and creative, cool motorcycle designs I've seen in a long time, maybe my entire time making YouTube videos. I present to you guys the all-new 2026 V3R 900E compressor prototype. As you guys know, I normally don't cover prototypes on this channel, but this is so different and so cool and from such a well-known brand that I just couldn't ignore it. Let's talk about this insanely cool prototype Honda has just announced, and let's start with the engine. This bike is going to be powered by a 900cc V3 engine. But that's not all. It will also have an electronically driven compressor. Now, even though it's a 3-cylinder 900cc engine, thanks to its e-compressor, it will have performance rivaling that of a 1200cc class bike, according to Honda at least. Now, how does this e-compressor work, you might ask? The e-compressor uses a high-speed electric motor to spin its impeller and compress the intake air. The magic of this e-compressor is that because it runs off electricity, it is totally independent of the bike's RPM, which means you get instant power anywhere in the rev range, similar to an electric bike, but with a 900cc V3 engine married to it. This has many advantages. Instant power is just one aspect, but also because it's electric, it doesn't require an intercooler, which helps with the packaging and weight. Now, Honda hasn't announced any power figures for this bike as of yet, but we can speculate because Honda says it will have similar power to that of a 1200cc bike, which leads me to believe that it will have somewhere in the neighborhood of 160 to 180 horsepower. Torque is supposedly going to be responsive and strong, which to compare to a 1200, we would see somewhere north of 100 foot-pound, maybe even as high as 110. Now, where Honda is not clear is what 1200 is being compared to. My guess is the only other 1200cc bike Honda has really made in the recent history is the VFR 1200, which makes 160 horsepower. However, that is a V4, not a V3, so it's hard to say for certain whether it's going to actually be comparable to this 1200 or a 1200 with a V3. Not sure, but I would say we can expect somewhere north of 160 horsepower, but of course that is a total guess. The other factor is the weight. A V3 engine with an e-compressor is going to have tight packaging. In fact, if you look at the video and images of the V3R, you can see it definitely looks rather slim. I believe this bike should, in theory, weigh less than a liter bike, thanks to its smaller engine size and by having one less cylinder. However, it really is impossible to say. I'd speculate and say we are looking somewhere in that 420 to 440 curb weight. But again, that is just an estimation, not an official number by Honda. Once official numbers are announced, I'll make a video about it, so be sure to subscribe so you stay up to date with the current information about this bike. Now let's quickly take a look at the aesthetics of this bike, which I am so excited to talk about. It features wide asymmetrical bodywork with a small elongated center LED headlight flanked by two asymmetrical intakes, which is actually a really cool look, I must admit. And if you look at the rear of the bike, you can see it has a single-sided swing arm and a traditional side-mounted exhaust. As you can see, it is a naked bike with tall handlebars and a long solo seat, which I can imagine they will end up having a passenger seat in the actual production model of this bike. However, the question becomes, what is this bike? I like that it is different, but I struggle to call this aesthetically pleasing. I believe the star of the show is going to be that V3 engine, which is reminiscent of Honda's V5 engine they used in their RC211V. Being an odd-numbered V-type engine, which is extremely uncommon. In fact, Honda, as far as I know, is the only major manufacturer to create one. In fact, the last time they made a V3, it was a two-stroke in the NS500. But those days were forever ago, and now in 2026, Honda is bringing it all back. But I have to admit, something is picking at my mind right now with this bike, and I'm inclined to think that this is almost, and I hate to say it, and I know people are going to fight with me over it, but a VFR replacement. I know it's not a VFR, and Honda doesn't call it that, but VFR or V3R, it is a close name. And seeing the single-sided swing arm and the fact that Honda calls it the same power of a 1200, when the only 1200 Honda has made recently was the VFR 1200. Now I get it, guys. It is a naked bike, not a sport tourer, but maybe other iterations of this engine will exist once the proof of concept is proven. It makes you wonder, where is Honda's mind with this bike? What is their goal and expectations of such a unique machine? Is this the future of what we can expect from motorcycles? Smaller engines assisted by e-motors and compressors? Or is this a one-off by Honda showing the world that they still have it, that they are still the kings of innovation? Did a sleeping giant just awaken? We will just have to wait and see. Anyway, I'm curious what you guys think of this bike. Please let me know down in the comment section below if this is something you are interested in owning, or if you are just fascinating and following along to see what Honda does with this. It seems this could be the mark of some exciting times. The future looks bright, and I'm excited to see how this continues to develop. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you all. Please consider subscribing for more motorcycle-related content. Thank you, take care, and bye-bye.
It's a sick news for your little aerosol. Let me live my life, the one I'd better lead. All the blondes of fantasies, and we looked at them 11 ways. You said, look at me, I looked away, and you wrote the song I wanna play. Alright.